Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast today. I'm excited to have Denise Mai with us, a speaker, investor, top 1% realtor with 10 million plus real estate portfolio and also 500 million plus volume sold. That's some incredible results right here. And I'm so excited to speak to you today, learn more about your journey, learn more about how you started. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's such an honor to be here with you today.
Amazing. Well, first question for you, and I always ask this everybody so they can introduce their journey. So, first question for you, tell me more about how you started. Tell me more about why, you chose real estate because not everyone goes to real estate. And I think I heard that you came from a corporate background too. So, tell us more.
Yeah, well, I started my real estate journey back in 2010, and wow, it's been 14 years and it's flown by just like that. I was not always wanting to be a realtor. I thought I was going to climb up the corporate ladder. I went to university, got my degree in communications, and I got into actually two jobs at two Fortune 500 companies before I became a real estate agent. And so that's the trajectory I was going towards, becoming a CEO one day. And that was what I was dreaming of at the time. And once I got into the whole 9 to 5 world, I realized, you know what, that really wasn't for me. I just didn't like the fact that someone was controlling my income. I didn't like the fact that I had to clock in, clock out. And especially if someone was like, my manager is like, you did a good job this year. We're going to give you a 5% raise. I just wanted to be in control of my own money, my own time. And I remember having lunch with the one of the CEOs at the time of the company I was working for, and he said, "Well, Denise, why don't you try real estate?" I'm like, "Real estate?" I was like 24 at the time. I'm like, "Who's gonna trust 24-year-old to sell their $1 million home?" And so there's actually a little bit of a story behind this. How I got into real estate was at first I didn't believe that I could because you don't at 24 you're just kind of like still figuring things out. I was actually entering a contest with one of my best friends to sell newspaper advertisements, and whoever sold the most advertisements would win a trip somewhere in the world. And there was about 20 teams of two when we decided to target realtors, and we knew that they advertised, so we thought, hey, we'll target them and see if they want to advertise in this little coffee mate where on the sides, they had these little advertisement spots. So we basically booked appointments, 5 appointments to meet up with these realtors. And at 4 in the morning, my girlfriend calls me. She's like, Denise, I'm so sorry. I can't make it. I just been arguing with my boyfriend all night. You're going to have to go on your own. She hangs up and I was like, wow, she just leaves me hanging. I called the owner of the company, which was the newspaper. He said, Denise, I believe in you. You can do it. And so basically, long story short, I ended up winning that contest on my own. And by doing so, it really instilled the belief in me that I could sell and that, you know what? And so basically after that, I took a leap of faith, got my real estate license, and here I am 14 years later still.
Oh my goodness, I have goosebumps. That's incredible. And honestly, I think this kind of experience really gives you that confidence that you can actually go into it. That's incredible. Love that. Okay, so moving on to the next question, actually kind of just building on that. So how was it selling your first house as a 24-year-old?
Oh, wow. When I first started in real estate, I started on a team. I was on a team for about 3 years, and all I did was work with buyers. And it's really interesting. I just kind of thinking back, when you get your license, no one really prepares you for what real estate's all about. There's like, you take your test, you get your license, and you're like, okay, go out and sell real estate. And so I didn't know anything about the process of selling. I didn't realize this whole being a realtor is all about selling. And so I remember the first deal, one of my first sayings to myself was always fake it till you make it. Because at that time, I wasn't confident, didn't know what I was talking about, didn't have much knowledge, and everything was new to me. But I said, you know what? Whenever I met clients, I just stepped in there and I thought it was like showtime. I just, even though I wasn't confident, I acted confident. Even though I didn't feel knowledgeable, I acted knowledgeable, right? So it got to a point where I just, became fake it till you make it till I became it. And so the first deal that I did, I remember it was like, I was 25. I was really self-conscious about how I looked because I thought I looked young for my age. And at that time, it was a very sweet lady. She was buying this property for her mom, and she trusted me because at the end of the day, I still really cared. And I really went out of my way to do my best for my clients. And I think that's what she saw. And so even though that she was my first sale, I don't think she knew that.
That's amazing. And honestly, that's my phrase too. And I personally came from overseas. I landed in Canada, and that's the attitude that I also had when I started. I was like, you just need to do it. You just fake it until you make it, and it's gonna be fine. But that's amazing. I love to hear that, it went so smooth. And it's awesome. So tell me more about the team. So you started on a team. So it was 3 years on the team. And then you decided to leave, and did you start your own team then, or was it a little bit of time before you started your own?
Yeah, so I was on a team for 3 years, and all I did was work with buyer leads and just work with online leads that they gave me. And then I decided it was like 3 years in, and I remember this conversation I had with my team leader. We were on a 50-50 split. I said, is there any possibility, of me getting a little bit more of a higher split? Right. And at the time, he was like, nope, it's 50-50. This is the way it is. And so I said, you know what? I'm just going to try it on my own. I think if he would have even offered me 55-45, I would have stayed. But because he said no, that gave me the opportunity to step out on my own. And I think I'm forever grateful for that, because I think I would have been hindered, and being on team was almost like a safety blanket. And it was a bit scary to go on my own because, all of a sudden I'm out having to find my own leads, doing everything on my own. So it was really scary at first. So but I did it. So my fourth year, I went on my own, and in my fifth year, was the year that I tripled my business. So I went from doing 10 to 20 deals my first 4 years to doing over 63 deals in my fifth year, and becoming like the top 1%. I think I was like 32 out of like 15,000 agents in my entire real estate board. So it was a pretty proud moment for me. And in the last 5 years, I was always trying to build this team. I've always wanted to have a team. I've always had people helping me. I always got an assistant. I started off with a virtual assistant, and then I got an in-house assistant. And then I had like buyer's agents that were always helping me out, because I always believe in leveraging, other people so that I can either take back some of my time freedom. And it wasn't until last year where I actually started my own team officially for the first time. So officially last year, I started the My Real Estate Group, and it's been amazing. I really doubted a lot of myself before about whether or not I could be a leader, because becoming a leader, I felt it came with great responsibility. I almost had people's livelihood that depended on me, and so I didn't take it lightly. And so last year we actually made it in the top 10% the first year on the team. So yeah, it's been an amazing journey so far, and I just have loved every single moment of it.
Love that. What skills did actually help you so build your career in real estate, I guess, so fast and so successful too? Like, I had a chance to speak to a lot of real estate agents. We do have a real estate marketing agency on our own. So, I have a chance to speak to a lot of people with different experiences, pre-construction and like condos and et cetera, et cetera. So tell me more about the skills that really helped you. Is it like just being consistent? Is it sales experience? What was really crucial for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I think there's been a few factors that has contributed to my success. The first and foremost is you've got to have such a strong and powerful why. For me, coming from a very poor background, I knew that I wanted to create a new legacy and then break the generational gap of, being poor, in my whole household, right? Growing up poor, I knew that, if I ever was to have a family or my future, I didn't ever want to not have money, because I know money isn't everything, but money gives you options. And growing up, I didn't have a lot of options growing up. Couldn't, buy a lot of things, couldn't take certain lessons, like couldn't do a lot of things that I wanted to do. So I knew that I wanted to be able to be successful, give my parents a happy retirement, because they did a lot for me. They've made a lot of sacrifices for me. So having a strong why was probably my driving force, because real estate is simple, but it's not easy. because there are times, there's so many highs and lows in real estate. It's like, a roller coaster of emotions. You're going to have a high of getting a client, and then a low, the deal falls apart, or a high of negotiating a deal, but low of inspection falling through. So you got to have that powerful why that will basically get you up in the morning, even days when you don't want to. And I think a huge six pillar of my change in my fifth year was getting a mentor, getting a coach, being able to have someone I can bounce ideas off of, learn from, because, at the end of the day, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We're just wanting to know what works. It's like having a roadmap. If I have a GPS, Google Maps, that's going to tell me where to go from A to Z, it's so much easier than me trying to figure out on my own and kind of getting lost and trial and error and everything like that. So having a coach, I also surrounded myself with amazing people that I also wanted to emulate, because a lot of times you are the average of the five people that you surround yourself with. I know we hear this all the time, but it's so true. The power of proximity is so important, because the energy of the people around you really affects the way you think, the way you do things, the actions you take, the hobbies you do. And so I surrounded myself with agents who were doing much greater than me. Like, a lot of people, when I became the top 1% in the fifth year, all of a sudden I like felt like a big fish in Vancouver amongst like everyone. But when I actually went to different conferences and different events where I put myself in rooms where people were doing like maybe 10 times, 20 times my volume, I all of a sudden felt like the small fish again. And I never want to ever be the smartest person in the room. I always love surrounding myself with people who are just growth oriented, who want to do better, who want to be the best version of themselves. And, those are some of my greatest values, is that I always want to always be bit better, even if it's an inch better in the right direction, it's still improvement. So I would say those were some of the contributing factors. But always, one last thing I want to say that is so important is invest in yourself. I probably spent at least $300,000 to $400,000 on like personal development, whether that be going to different conferences, courses, coaches, you name it. I've like probably done every personal development course I can, because I really had to learn how to move away from a scarcity mindset into creating abundant mindset, because otherwise I would always be living in scarcity, because that's, how I grew up. My mom was always, we were poor, we had to save. My mom was always like, don't spend money on this. And, that was always like been programmed into me. So it took a lot of conditioning to get myself out of that conditioning.
And it's really hard too, and it takes some time to actually get rid of those like principles that you build over time, especially from a family too. Similar background I had, and I know a lot of people that had similar situation, but if you really take the time to actually get rid of what you build up all your life, like it's possible. And I think you're a great example of that. And I heard so many amazing tips just right now for those who starting out, who've been in the industry, like going to the conference, surround yourself with the right people. I feel like a lot of people hear these things and they actually don't do it. And that's the biggest problem. They know what to do. They actually just don't proceed into doing that.
Yes, and I think that's a great point that you talk about. And that's one of my greatest mentors always said, is just take massive action. And a lot of times we let fear hold us back, because the biggest self-doubt that everyone has is like, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't know enough. I'm not pretty enough. And they come up with all these excuses to hold them back. But I think for me, the biggest, that's probably another factor to my success, is I've always been the type to make quick decisions, and I'd rather have failed and learned than not try at all. And so for me, it's always about just going for it no matter what. And even though, and don't get me wrong, I feel fear a lot. It's happened so many times in my life, but you've got to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. And every time I feel fear, or I feel uncomfortable, I feel uneasiness now, I step into it, because I know that I'm on the brink of change. And every time I've stepped into it, on the other side, whether it's gone good or bad or whatever that is, I've always grown because of it. And I think, I read this book from Darren Hardy, It's called the compounding effect. And what he talks about in there is a pendulum. And on one side of the pendulum is failure, heartbreak, um, you know, like not like sadness, all the negative, like rejection, like everything that you can think of on the negative side of the pendulum. And on this side is success, is true love, is happiness, is joy. And the thing is, most people stay in the center, which is their comfort zone, because most people are so afraid of failing, are so afraid of rejection, so afraid to get their heart broken again, that they truly never get to experience what true success is like, true love is like, true happiness is like. And so, ever since I heard about this pendulum, I'm like, you know what? I would love to experience the true successes and true loves. And, because like even me, I've gotten my heart broken, I've gotten, rejected, I've gotten like failed in so many businesses. But each and every single time I've always looked back and I said, wow, I've learned this from it. I've grown from this. And if you're learning and growing, it's such a beautiful part of life. And I think that's like something that is so beautiful if we can all see that life is happening for us and not to us.
Amazing. I think taking risks also always pays off. Like when you actually go for it and you do it, I sometimes even recommend to people to just go for it. Like just do it and you'll see what happens. You will become better anyways. You will learn from your experience. It's not even mistakes, right? Like it's just experience that you have. So amazing. Some amazing great points here that you just mentioned. But one thing that I did want to ask is regarding mentor. So you already mentioned mentorship a couple of times. So tell me, what's your criteria for selecting a mentor? Because it's also important to choose the right person for yourself that aligns with, where you actually want to go and someone who can actually help you out. So what's your kind of opinion on how to select a mentor?
Yeah, to pick the right mentor is so crucial because it's almost like it's having the right mentor will determine the trajectory of where you're going to go. And for me, finding the right mentor is someone who I want to emulate or is where I want to be. And I have a great mentor in my life. I call her my soul sister. She's about 10 years older than me, but where she's at in her life right now is where I want to be 10 years from now. She's financially free. She's in a loving, passionate, intimate relationship. She has a beautiful house. She's created an amazing career where she's able to, only work a few hours a day. And I get a lot of my life advice, career advice, just any type of advice from her. So at the end of the day, I know when we're stuck and we have questions that we're going through, struggles, sometimes we look to those closest to us, right? And if you ask people for their opinion, everybody has an opinion or has 2 cents or comments about something. But at the end of the day, for me, I always take those opinions with a grain of salt because I ask myself, has that person gone through this situation that I've gone through? Do they have the experience or knowledge to be able to give me the right advice? Am I taking the right advice from the right person, from the right individual? And I know a lot of the times we get, you know, pushed or pulled in certain directions because of certain advice, but it may not necessarily be the right advice. And so I would say that's my biggest advice is to find somebody who's a mentor in your life that could guide you to where you want to be because they have done it themselves or they have gotten the experience in some way, shape, or form that can be able to guide you in the right direction.
Incredible. And I think that's where a lot of people make a mistake when they actually choose their mentor. They choosing the person that actually not is where they want to be in like 5 or 10 years. And again, if you have someone teaching you that is not where you actually want to be, that might be a little bit tough for you to get to your goal.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. Okay. So then a couple more questions. I wanted to ask more about online leads. So I know you mentioned online leads earlier when you worked on the team and you had online leads coming in from the team. What's your approach right now to the lead gen? Is it still online leads or are you just kind of generating them themselves? Or is it any other approach that you currently use?
When I first started in real estate, my coach always told me there's three ways to find business. Number one, you can buy it, buy online leads. You can go farm. You could buy a billboard. You could just pay for online leads, just any type of leads, you can buy it. Number two, you can wait for it, wait at open houses, wait for referrals, wait for people to call you back, wait for your circle of influence. Or number three, you can find it, which is prospecting, door knocking, going to networking events. And so for me personally, I've always been a big proponent of finding my own leads, because when you are able to not only generate your own leads, but be able to convert cold leads into clients, your level of skill is so high to be able to get someone to build trust and rapport with someone that doesn't even know you, to be able to convert them into your client. It takes a very high level of skill to do that. And so I was, yeah, I had a coach who basically gave me those words of advice. And ever since then, I've always been a big proponent of finding my own leads. And also, I actually had one of my closest friends when I first started real estate. I got really hurt because she actually listed her parents' house with another agent. And ever since then, I said to myself, like, you know what? I'm not going to depend on my circle of influence. I'm not going to depend on my friends or family. I'm going to go out and find my own leads, because I can't depend and wait for the rest of my life for these people to trust me. I'm new. I get it, and looking back, I don't have any ill will against her. She had to do the best for her and her family at the time, because I wouldn't probably trust myself. I'm a new agent as well. But soon enough, if you're able to build the experience, build the credibility, they'll soon come back to you. And so I've had the pleasure now of helping her and her family a few times. But, learning, that was such a great learning opportunity at the beginning of my career.
Amazing. And then in terms of social media and lead gen, did you have any leads coming in from social at all? I know you have like over 20,000 followers right now. And how do you even approach content creation for lead gen if you even do that?
That's a great question. I feel like social media and online lead creation is something that is like such an evolution. And, for me, social media has always been such a more of a credibility tool. I do get some leads from social media, but not all. Like, I wouldn't say it's a bulk of my leads that have come in. A lot of my leads that I work on is just past clients, referrals. And, when you've been doing this as long as I have for 14 years, and if you've done a good job in your career, this career should really, the longer you're in it, the more business you should get. It should be exponential, because if you do a good job, one client's going to tell another, and so on and so forth. It's the power of word of mouth. And so for me, it's always been word of mouth and referrals. And I do get a small percentage from online social media, my website, people finding me on Google, my YouTube. So, but for me though, I am seeing the power of this. So I am starting to really create a little bit more social media content to try to generate more leads online as well. But by attracting them, not by buying them, because I like to run a very lean ship, and I like to run a business where we're just being very mindful of our budget, because I'd rather be spending money on investing into our clients' properties, marketing, advertising our clients' listings, than just be trying to pay for leads that we're going to have to call anyways.
Yeah, and I think with social media too, instead of just going straight for paid, the recommendation would be just actually creating the content that actually, as you said, builds credibility over time with people, right? So they trust you, they know you, and they will reach out over time. But if you just go straight for like paid leads and, hey, I'm gonna do home evaluation for you, this doesn't work as well anymore because people don't know you, they don't understand the value that you have to offer, and the competition is so high right now. So that's definitely not a winning strategy.
Exactly.
Amazing. All right. And then in terms of content overall, I did have a chance to kind of go through your page and I absolutely love it. It's a nice mix of real estate content with some of your lifestyle content. I saw some videos from a wedding, from a Valentine's Day, if I'm not mistaken. So there was a lot of really cool things. And I love how you mix it up to actually show who you are as a human because people work with people. What's your approach to social media? Do you try to have that nice mix between two, or do you plan some other strategy that you're going to implement anytime soon?
That's a great question. And for me, I've always wanted to keep my social media more professional. But at the end of the day, if you're only just posting just listed, just sold, your listings, people get bored of that. And so I do throw in a little bit of my own personal life, like me getting married or like getting engaged, because I feel like you said, people want to see the human side to you. They want to see, who is Denise? Like, who am I hiring? Like, what is she all about? Like, and so, of course I can put all my like awards and properties that I saw, but at the end of the day, I also want to be able to connect with my social media audience and be able to connect to them on a like human to human soul level, because that's really important. People don't necessarily want to care about what you know until they know you care. So for me, I do want to connect, and a lot of times I'm able to connect with a lot of people on different things. But nowadays I'm always just still trying to create those boundaries of not going down that rabbit hole, because you can really next thing like be on social media for an hour and it's gone by without you even noticing. So for me, I always have a timer on my phone, which basically sets like a 30-minute time lock where I'm like, okay, it's been 30 minutes. I need to get off now because I've created what I need to create and I got to move on.
Love that. Okay, so now moving back a little bit to just real estate, not social media. Let's imagine that there is a person out there that wants to start in real estate, and they probably transitioning from a corporate too, and they don't know anything about real estate. They're vetting you. They just like arrived to Vancouver. They know area a little bit, but that's pretty much it. And they finish the courses for real estate agents. So that's it. So, what would you recommend to a person like that who wants to start right now and who they're like starting to build up their success in real estate? What would you recommend to that person? Like, what would be like top three things that they need to do first so they get their first client?
Ooh, to get their first client. I think first and foremost, I would find a mentor or find somebody online that you can learn from, because there's so much resources out there. Not, I know sometimes finding a mentor, people are like, oh, like they're afraid to reach out to people to be their mentor. But if you actually think about the people who are really successful and are where you want to be, they at one point had to start somewhere, and they also had to have mentors. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people who are successful out there always get to a point where they want to give back and contribute. So if you, number one, I recommend getting a mentor. If you cannot find a mentor, go online and look up like real estate sales training. There's so much content out there just around how to basically scripts and role plays and how to create your own clientele. So that's probably the first thing I would do. Number two, I would prospect. When I say prospect, I've been always a big proponent of picking up the phone. When people say prospect, who am I going to call? Like, who am I going to target? There's so many different ways. You can look up a recent sale in your neighborhood, a sale that maybe it went over asking by 100,000, or if there's nothing like that that's happening in your market right now, find a property that just sold. Call around the neighborhood and just be like, hi, Mr. Mrs. Seller, just give me a call to let you know that 123 Main Street, just down the block from you, just sold. And it sold for over asking at 1.5 million. Just calling to see, do you know anyone else who might be thinking about moving? Right. And you start this conversation, and like if you get good enough on the phone, you should be able to set appointments. That's what I always did. Like I worked 5 days a week. I had a very ironclad schedule. I would wake up at 6 a.m. I'd go to hot yoga for an hour and a half. I'd be in the office by 8 a.m. I'd role play for about an hour, be on the phones from 9 a.m. to 12, go for lunch. Follow up would be 1 to 3, and 3 to 6 would be appointments. And that was my schedule 5 days a week for 5 years. And that's how I would say I got myself to the top 1%, because I took my career and I treated it as a job. Because when you don't have a boss, you don't have someone looking over your shoulders, it's so easy to sleep in. It's so easy to not do what you need to do. right? Because not everybody, that's what I'm saying. Real estate is simple, but it's not easy because not everyone's willing to pick up the phone and make calls or to prospect because they're, for whatever reason, they get in their own way, right? We all have all these limiting beliefs that would potentially stop us. But if you are willing to take that, set that time aside, even 3 hours a day, that's all you need to do, and set one appointment a day, you are going, it's going to be life changing. And so once you learn how to set an appointment, you go on listing appointments, then you have to learn the whole listing process and how to get somebody to trust you to sell their home. But once you've got that listing signed, now you start learning the other steps of marketing and creating the next, how to get that home sold. So I'd probably say the second would be is learning scripts, getting really good at objection handling, basically sales skills. Become a master at sales because that's really going to help you generate your first client. And if you're new to the industry, you're probably going to start working with buyers first because sellers, it's a more competitive market in sellers. You're going to come, you might be competing with other agents. So working with buyers was an easy, getting my feet wet in the industry job because, you're just finding homes and you learn so much becoming a buyer's agent. And the third thing I would probably recommend to somebody who's getting into real estate is you got to read and invest in yourself. And there's this book that I think it's A Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I would recommend that book to new agents out there. Is read that book. You'll learn so much about how to structure your business and create a business that is going to leave a legacy for you and your family. So those would be my top three. Number one, find a mentor, learn sales training. Number two, master sales training. And number three, read the book, Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And I have a whole book list. So if somebody wants to get my book list, they can always contact me.
I want. Can I contact you for that? No, that's
Of course.
awesome. And this is the first time I'm actually hearing this in a podcast, and we've done like a lot of episodes. So this is really great. I haven't heard about this book myself, and either this one or the one that you mentioned before. So I'm excited to read it, and I'm very hoping that the audience will read it too. But that's awesome. And I think that will give someone a really good start in the industry too. And they will know what they need to do to actually get results. Because when you're kind of starting in the industry, I feel like, and you don't have that 9 to 5, you don't have the structure to the day, you don't have a person just above you tell you what you need to do, it's really hard to organize yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, and then about sales. So I wanted to ask you more about the way you approach your conversation with client, right? So from kind of what I hear, people struggle with follow-ups just a little bit. Well, they struggle with reach out sometimes. And as you said, not a lot of people are willing to go on a call to actually have a conversation. But then once you do have a conversation, potentially you get a no, or like, yeah, let me think about it. It's hard to bring that conversation back for some people. So what's your approach for that? How do you have that follow-up so you don't sound, I don't know, salesy or like you need something from a person? What's your approach to that?
The best approach to following up with clients is to come from a place of service, coming from a place of how can I help them, helping them solve a problem. That's what you really, at the end of the day, we are. We're problem solvers. So somebody needs to move because they need more space, or they're getting married, or they're trying to figure out a certain situation, like, oh, they can't get financing because of certain situations. So if you can help people solve their problems, we're just really highly paid problem solvers. And so so basically it's, sorry, what was your question again?
It was about follow-ups and how do you approach
Oh yeah.
like follow-ups with people. But I think what you just said, that's really great. And I think that's already gives a really good direction for people, because I feel like a lot of people don't come from that mindset of trying to help someone. They come from a mindset like, I need money now, like, and I haven't had a deal in 2 months, and like, please help me out here. So that's definitely not the mindset that you have.
Oh, absolutely not. And I always tell the agents on my team, the money is in the FU, which is in the follow up. It's the fortune is in the follow up. And you really just got to, because at the end of the day, if you're not going to follow up, there's no point in prospecting because you're gonna first you find the prospect. That's when you're hunting, right? When you hunted, you found somebody that is potentially a lead. You need to call them and follow up. And if you really have, and this is a line that my coach always said to me before, is selling is not telling. Selling is asking questions. And so if you have commission breath, people can sense it. If you sound needy, or you sound like you need the sale, or you need them to buy or sell from you, people can sense it. But if you're actually being curious and being inquisitive and asking questions that are really engaging and building rapport at the same time, and getting and being able to relate to them, that is so crucial. And I think this is also something very important for a lot of new agents. I always have my agents do a personality test. I get them to do about 4 different personality tests so that they can understand themselves. And then when they understand themselves, there's other personalities out there. I want them to start understanding the other personality types, because that's how you become a good salesperson. This is very psychological. You need to be able to be relatable and versatile in who you're talking to or speaking with. If you're able to, for example, I mirror match. This is an NLP technique. When I'm speaking to, let's say, an older individual, a senior, and she's talking slower, I'm going to slow down my speech, right? When she's talking softer, I'm talking softer. Or if I'm talking to somebody who's a little, who works in the construction field, and they're a little bit more of, like, let's say, blue collar, and they have a little bit more rough on the edge tone, I will usually mirror match who I'm talking to, personality type, tone, and the way, even my demeanor, right? And because if people can feel that they can relate to you, they'll be wanting to do more business with you. And that's how you build trust quite quickly. If people can relate to you and know that they can be like, wow, Denise understands who I am, right? And so this is what I would say. Yes.
So what kind of a course is this training would be part of? So if a real estate agent is deciding to learn more about like how to approach different conversations with different personality types, would that be part of a sales training? Is it like kind of going back to your personal branding and growing? Like from your experience, where would someone find information like that?
They could definitely, there's different personality tests they can do out there. Just a few right off the bat, I could, kind of name them here for you since I'm here. The DISC personality profile test. I like to do the Tony Robbins one. So if you just Google Tony Robbins, DISC, you can see it there. A second one would be, I like to do the Gretchen Rubin 4 tendencies. A third one would be like the 16 personality styles, which is kind of like the Myers-Briggs. Those would be the first 3 that I would do. I also get people to do their love language. I don't know, that's a personal one I always get people to do. So those are the 4 that I usually get everyone on my team to do, so that they understand themselves a little bit more and be able to relate to their client more. And there are courses, there's like a DISC personality course that you could take, but I think just doing the test and knowing who you are will already help you so much more in relating to who your client is.
Yeah, and it's very important in a sale, as you said too, and just even building relationship with people, they will know that you understand them. If that's a numbers person and they really care about making sure that what's my ROI, what's my how am I gonna get there? Like, what are the specific steps? What is the roadmap? If they care about very, very much specifics, right? And you're this kind of a person, or you understand that they want that, you might be willing to actually give it to them. So yeah, definitely agree that that's awesome. And I think people should use that. I heard about Disc. I never used it myself, but I should probably check it out tonight as well.
Yes, it's super, yeah, so important. It's so interesting when you kind of do a personality test and you read about it and you're like, wow, this is who I am. Like, you're like, wow, this is me. It's really interesting.
Amazing. All right. And then a couple more questions, and I think we should be done. I don't want to keep you for too long. So what are one of the common mistakes that you see that young, or not even young, but those who just started in the industry make when they kind of get into real estate?
What was the last part that you just got cut off there? What was that?
Oh, yeah. So what are the common mistakes that you see people who get into the industry make? Is there like sales? Is there, I don't know, building a relationship? Is there anything that you maybe
Mm.
seen from your team?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest mistakes I see new agents make is that number one, they give up way too easily. Because, and I mentioned this earlier, is that we're basically problem solvers. And so there's a lot of times where situations happen and an agent would just try one thing and then it doesn't work and they either give up, right, or they'll try two or three ways and they'll give up. Like I'm one of those type of person. I have such a strong tenacity. I'm like such a, you have to think outside the box, because there's not all the time just an easy one way solution, right? And I always tell my team, never give up. There's a saying goes, but never give up till the fat lady sings. Or I think that's still a saying. I don't even know that's politically correct to say anymore, but there's supposedly that saying. So I always tell my team, like, you know what, if we're negotiating a deal, think of different angles you can come in at. That's probably the biggest mistake I see agents make, giving up too fast on deals, giving up too fast in the real estate industry. They don't do a deal for 6 months, or they don't do a deal for a year, and they give up on their real estate license. That's probably the biggest mistake I see. What other mistakes did I see real estate agents make? They don't invest enough time in learning. When you first start out as a realtor, you really got to be a sponge, and you've got to be investing at least an hour to 2 hours a day in learning, right? Because there's a lot of agents, like for me, I haven't watched TV in over probably 10 years now. Like when I'm driving, I'm not listening to music. I'm listening to either a podcast, or I'm listening to something educational. At night, I'm not watching TV or Netflix. I'm reading a book, something that I'm learning about. So that's probably what a big mistake I see, is that agents don't take this seriously enough, because whatever you put in, you get out. If you're putting 110% effort into real estate, that's what you're going to get out. If you're only putting 50% effort, you're only going to get 50% of the results. This industry is all about you and what you're willing to put in. If you're only going to half ass it, well, guess what? You're going to get half ass the results. But if you're willing to go give it your all, give it 150% each and every single day, and wake up on days when you don't want to wake up, those are the type of people who will succeed in this business. And that's why I do believe in the not, they call it the 80-20 rule, but I even feel like it's a 90-10 rule in real estate, where 10% of the agents are doing 90% of the business, and the other 90% are doing 10% of the business. And there's a top 10%, there's a top 1% for a reason, because they're only the people who are wanting to truly succeed and willing to put in the effort and the actions will truly get there.
So what are the three actions that actually you think get you to that level of success? Is it, consistent follow-up routine that you have that you mentioned? And I think that's incredible. Maybe there is something else that you would recommend for someone to implement. So, that get them to their success in real estate too.
Well, I actually came up with I call it 7D. It might be 8Ds now, but 7D frameworks to create your destiny. And I created this based on my own personal experience. The first D is having a strong desire. You need to have a desire. Actually, it's either desire, I'm pretty sure it's desire. Okay, it's either dream. Okay, I think it's dream. Okay, scratch that. First, you got to have a dream. Okay, you got to have a dream of what it is that you want to achieve. You've got to be able to envision where you want to be or where you want to go. I remember when we were renting in this like tiny like 600 square feet of basement with me and my parents. We were renting there for 10 years. I remember like just always like imagining one day that I knew when I grew up I would wear a suit. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but just like always envisioning myself in a managerial role, or a position where I would be wearing a suit and I'd be doing meetings. And I didn't know what it was, but just having a dream of that, I wouldn't be broke or poor. That's what my dream was, that I'd be successful. And sometimes you don't know, you have to be very clear, right? So once I became a realtor, I just always like set goals for myself, right? It was first like making six figures, then it was making 500,000, then it was making X amount, and then doing how many deals. Then, so you always got to have a goal for yourself. So number one is dream, be able to envision yourself and believe that you can do it. Because if you don't believe it's possible for you, then it's never going to happen, right? So That's one. And this is a mantra that I want to share with you that I always share. Like, this is a quote that I live by for even till now, is whatever the mind can believe and it can conceive, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, by Napoleon Hill. So whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So if you can conceive it and you believe it, you can achieve it, right? So that's the number one. The first D is dream. The second one is desire, having a strong and unwavering desire and a strong why, which I also discussed. For me, my biggest why was my parents, to give them a happy retirement, to be able to take care of them for everything that they've done for me. So that really was the fire that was burning within me that kept me lit at all times. Number three, you got to have a strong drive. You got to be able to take yourself from A to Z, right? Because if you don't have a drive, the motivation, it doesn't matter what you do, you're just not going to get up or you're not going to be motivated. You got to find that motivation within yourself. You can't, a lot of times we kind of depend on exterior validation. And sometimes I get it. Some people may need that depending on your personality type. But if you can find that burning motivation and burning drive within you, that's even more powerful. Number four, you got to have discipline. You've got to be disciplined in your daily actions, your daily schedules, your daily contacts, your daily accountability, your daily goals. You got to have that discipline. You know, it's like if you want to lose weight, you've got to be disciplined in what you eat. Same thing in real estate. If you want to become a top 1% agent, you want to become a millionaire real estate agent, you've got to be disciplined in the actions you take every single day, right? So that's number four. Number five is let me think about this right now. This is like right off the top of my head. You know what? I am going to pull this up. Okay. Hold on 1 second. I have it here and I want to be able to make sure I share these D's with you because I think it's so powerful. And okay, here it is. Okay. So, oh, I actually missed a D. The third D was actually supposed to be decide. You need to decide when you've created, you have a dream, you created a desire, you need to decide that you're going to go for it. Because a lot of times people be stuck in analysis paralysis and they just keep stuck on this like research phase of their life. But you need to decide and just go for it because your decisions define you. And if you make a wrong decision, it's okay. You know, whatever, just remember that every decision you make leads to an outcome or a result or a learning opportunity. And there is no wrong decisions out there. But of course, make an educated decision if you can. So I talked about drive. And the next one would be, dedication. You need to be dedicated to your goals, right? You got to create a higher level of accountability, create a mastermind group, create some form or way where you're just going to be dedicated and there's nothing that's going to push you or move you away from that dedication to your goals. The next one is difference, making a difference in and adding value to your clients, making a difference in your life, making a difference in your client's life. We're basically paid in direct proportion to the value we provide. Money is just an energy exchange. So if you are delivering value and you are making a difference in this world, you're going to be paid in direct proportion to that. If you're not providing value, you're not making a difference, you're going to be paid incongruent to that. So just remember, if you want to get what you want, we've got to trade our energy or money for the value of what we're going to achieve. So for example, if you want to buy that house, you know, you got to create value to be able to trade your value for money to be able to purchase the house. That's really it is. It's just energy exchange. And the last D is really destiny. You know, if you follow these first 7 Ds, you can create your destiny. It doesn't matter where you came from, where your history, your past, whatever's happened to you, it doesn't matter. You can shape the life, your trajectory, your destiny by the first 7 Ds that or the 6 Ds that I mentioned. So the last one is destiny. And this is my biggest message to a lot of people that, you know, even if I came from a poor background and growing up where odds were stacked against me, that growing up single mom on welfare, that people thought, hey, I wouldn't succeed, but I persevered against it. That built resilience. And if I can do it, you can do it. It's really kind of my message to everyone out there.
You stole my last question because my last question was regarding your one advice, I guess, for everyone. And I'll let you answer that though, but I feel like with your 7Ds, you really just gave everyone a framework and roadmap for them actually to succeed in their life, not just in the real estate industry, but in their life, because this can be applied to anything that you have right now in your journey. I do appreciate you sharing that. I didn't have anything just here with me to take notes, but I will go back to actually rewatch this part and everything that you mentioned today, because I think that was just beyond valuable.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'll answer your last question. Sorry, what was your last question again?
It was regarding one advice for real estate agents that are just starting out in the industry.
Oh, my biggest advice. My biggest advice is just never give up. I think there's a lot of people out there that could be dream crushers, and a lot of the times we play too small. And biggest advice is that for women is to focus on self-care and self-love, because if we focus on that, and this is something I learned a little bit later on in my career, I probably learned this only about 8 years ago, is to have like real self-love. Like, love yourself for who you are and who you're not. Love yourself for the things that you can do and the things that you can't. Like, just accept every single part of you, whether that be the cellulite on your legs, or your whatever it is, the negatives that you might think. Just remember, we're not perfect. We're doing the best we can out there. And if you have such incredible self-love within you, and it's overflowing from your cup, that's going to spill to every single area of your life. And so it makes a difference when you meet clients and you come from a place of love and you come from a heart-centered approach, and they see that you truly care about them, that you want the best outcome for their family. They are so happy to be able to work with you. And I think that's my biggest advice, for the women and men out there. Like, men out there, same with you. Like, just have self-love, build self-confidence. When you build self-confidence, and the only way to build self-confidence is number one is just trying, taking action, failing, but learning from the failures and moving forward. Don't get stuck on the past. Don't get stuck on situations that we keep going over in our heads, that we should have done this better, we could have done that. Just remember that every situation or opportunity that happens in your life is an opportunity for you to grow and learn. And if you can, and then from that you build the confidence that you need, because every experience builds confidence, builds experience, and you're going to be able to take that with you. So yeah, I just, that's some of my advices. And I'm actually in the process of creating, I'm finishing creating a course right now for realtors, and I'm going to be launching that soon. So if anyone or yourself is interested, they can also reach out to me as well about that.
100%. And I think we would be even happy to promote it on our pages too, just so more people can join in, because we really want this podcast and what we do to be a hub for the knowledge, so everyone can learn and exchange that information and like learn from the best of the best. So definitely would love to promote your course and what you do. You got so much that you shared today. I would stay here for the next 2 hours with you, to be honest. I have so
Thank
many
you.
questions. I'm trying to like stop myself right now because I just got so much that I still want to ask. But hoping we will meet with you one day, perhaps even in Vancouver, or come see us in Toronto. But Denise, that was incredible. Thank you so much. That was super valuable. I'm so excited to have the audience see this and learn from you. Your success. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure. And yeah, if anybody wants to reach out to me, they can find me, I guess, on Instagram, Denise Mai underscore real estate. They can email me, my phone number. They Google Denise Mai. There's only one of me. There's actually another real estate agent, but I come up more on Google when they Google Denise Mai. So
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again, and excited to chat and see you at some point soon.
amazing. Thank you
Thank
again.
you.
Bye.